This is the Ancient Texan, and I would like to introduce this podcast, this YouTube video, with a question. Have you ever filled out the census form or a lot of other forms where it comes down and it asks you what your race is, and you get to choose white, African American, Indian, Hispanic, a whole bunch of choices. And I believe this is a racial question. It's asking you what your race is more than an ethnicity, because white, Hispanics are white people like me are white. So it's basically asking you what race are you a part of. And on the census form, it actually says what race are you part of. What I'm wondering is when you get asked this question on the census or on a job application, what your race is, and you write down white, is that okay? Are you implicitly saying it's okay to categorize me by my race? Race is important. You should make sure that you don't confuse me with a black person or an Indian person. Are you saying it's important, and are you continuing to support those that divide us by race? My daughter the other day stopped me when I was talking about somebody I had met, and I said I said it, she was about 30, she was black, she blah, 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 blah. And my daughter said, "Why did you need to tell me her race? That's not okay." Because I was saying her race by just saying her race. I was saying that was an important characteristic. It wasn't like my daughter needed to go pick her out of a crowd. It was talking about someone I met and my opinions of a conversation we'd had. It's kind of like when you say, she's one of those, isn't it? I mean, by a constant reference to race when it's not required for the discussion. It's not like helping you pick them out of a crowd, like the black one in the crowd of white people. That I could see, it's just functional, or the white one in the black crowd. But otherwise, when you answer a questionnaire or point out a person's race when it has no relevance to the discussion that's going on, isn't that supporting racism and saying race is always important? It's a question. What do your values say? Now I'm going to go on and talk a little bit more about a phrase, Black Lives Matter, which I think is kind of in the same category. Yo, this is the Ancient Texan. My UUFN, which is a fellowship, and it kind of looks like a church. I'm not sure it quite quacks like a church because they actually encourage you to think for yourself and look for your own truth. They recently put up a sign in front of the church that says Black Lives Matter. Wow, that bothers me. Can't tell how much that bothers me. My first reaction is that it's a racist comment. I know UUFN didn't invent that phrase, but black lives, what are they talking? The black race. It's talking about race. The black race matters. I agree, they do. But Black Lives Matter is lives that are of the black race matter. It's about, if you have race is a created thing and it's complete nonsense. It means if you have so much, is it melatonin or pigment in your skin, if you have above a certain threshold, you're considered black. Although, there's Hispanics and Italians, and I've seen lots of people that are not Afro American who are black. So I guess they're also of the black race. And it just bothers me that we're still talking about race and making it important. And if we're going to do that, then I'm worried about all the, young white men that are committing suicides and gun violence and, dropping out of high school and college and dropping out of the labor force. There's a lot of them. So white lives matter, but I'm told that that's not appropriate. I'm not quite sure why. I was told, you can't have white racism, just black racism. Well, I agree that the term was created for blacks, race. It was created about, skin pigment. But words evolve and change with time. And they take on broader and different meanings than they originally intended. So I would say that, consult a dictionary and see if race is now a broader concept than just black pigment. Well, I looked it up just while I'm sitting here. The Census Bureau defines race as a person's self identification with one or more social groups. Wow, that's evolving. An individual can report as white, black, or African American, Asian, American Indian, or Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian, or other specific islander, or some other race. Survey respondents may report multiple races. What is race versus ethnicity? Race refers to the concept of dividing people into groups on the basis of various sets of physical characteristics and the process of ascribing social meaning to those groups. Ethnicity describes the culture of people in a given geographic region, including their language, heritage, religion, and custom. So African American would be ethnicity, according to this. How much skin pigment you have would be race. And so you get to be the black race if you have enough skin pigment, and you get to be, by the physical characteristics of not having enough pigment, you get to be the white race. Wow. Isn't that messed up? And isn't it messed up we have to say that people matter based on their skin pigment? Isn't that just like, isn't that weird to anybody else but me? Black lives matter. People with enough skin pigment in their skin matter. I wonder about people with scars on their nose. Do they matter? See, that it just strikes me as racist to divide a group out by their race and say something good or bad about them. It doesn't, or make some judgment based on race. I just don't quite get how that's not racism. It always used to bother me, it bothers me less now, that they had black colleges. It also bothered me that the Washington Redskins, although that didn't bother me as much, I'm not sure why, because I hadn't been sensitized as much, I don't think, to racial prejudice or racial judgments, values associated with Indians. That social group, the people that had pigment that made their skin kind of look red. Although a lot of Indians don't look red. In fact, I would say most of them don't look red. And if you notice, I got a little red thing going on in my nose. Old man red nose. But it seems not good to call a football team by something that offends reddish colored Indians. And I'm not sure what the history of that is and why it's derogatory. Probably not as sensitive as I should be. My dad grew up outside the Indian reservation, and his face was red, very red. It wasn't from being an Indian, it was from being, having a birthmark. And I've got a birthmark on the back of my head that's red, but his covered his entire face. His whole head was a red birthmark. And to point out, people with red skin from birthmarks matter. I would think it's like insulting my dad. I just, like, how would that ever even come out of someone's mouth to say my dad's life matters because he has red skin on his face from a birthmark? Now, maybe I'm missing something logical here, that that I'm just not following. But whether it's black or red from a social group whose skin is sometimes redder than the rest of us, called Indians or Apaches or whatever or red from a birthmark, or black from pigment, or black from a birthmark. Does this phrase apply to black-skinned people because they have a birthmark on their face? See, I think that's just like a big insult that we even go there. Why do we still go there? Why do we talk and put race out in front? I just don't see how that doesn't divide us. I don't like that. I don't like to be divided because of race. And I don't like people making judgments about race. I didn't like it when Trump said, not all Mexican are rapists. That's as racist as you get. It's, of course, by saying, they're not all rapists, but most of them are. That's the implied part of that thing that's not ordered. It's not said, but that's exactly what is being said. I didn't like it. And I don't like Trump because of that. One of the first things he said, I have a lot of Hispanic friends. I've had Mexican friends over the years. I don't like people insulting my friends. I wouldn't like people talking about my dad's birthmark in a disrespectful way. I don't like people talking about people being, black and their lives matter. That's almost like not all Mexicans are rapists. Black lives matter. Like you need to say that because there's so many of them that it doesn't matter for. Anyway, it's a subject that I have a hard time with, and I'm kind of sick of hearing about race in a way that divides us. I'm not okay with it. Anyway, this is the Ancient Texan with a voice. Hope you have a good one, and probably not going to get a lot of love out of this video. But luckily, I don't have many people that listen to me, so maybe I'm safe. Have a good one. Namaste.